case it took a few seconds extra for us to come to you on MPL Presents Cricbuzz Live, it's because we had to sort the furniture out in the studio. I needed a slightly more comfortable couch to sit on, and I've got it. The MPL Super Couch is mine, but only just. There was plenty of excitement here in the studio as we waited and waited and waited. 161 was all that Michael Vaughan needed to make his debut on the MPL Super Couch. MS Dhoni decided he didn't want a second run at the end. Michael, you're wondering why?
Why didn't you run two at the end? What is it? He wants a red inker. The skipper wanted a not out. Could have been on that couch.
It could have been, should have been. But really, if you look at it, that we were expecting a big flurry to finish. The moment it got down to that last ball, I said, yeah, here comes the big Dhoni 6 or the big Dhoni 4. But that's where it finished, exactly 160. That's what Craig McMillan mentioned in that little interview in the middle there in 20 overs. Faf du Plessis, while he was going, it looked like Joy Bhattacharjya with 181 was very much in the hunt for the MPL Super Couch, but it was not to be. But let's forget the predictions for a moment and try and assess the score as far as the home team are concerned. Chennai Super Kings won the toss, decided to bat, and just that single probably tells you from MS Dhoni that A, he has nothing against Michael Vaughan, but B, he probably was satisfied with that score.
Yeah, he seemed to be fairly happy with that score. He obviously, during the toss also, he seemed to indicate that the pitch will get lower and slower as it went on. And he's playing 3 frontline spinners and 2 more spinners, 5 spinners in effect. I mean, he has basically, he's played Harbhajan today, okay. He's got Tahir, he's got everyone. I mean, he's got Jadeja, then he's got Kedar Jadhav and Raina. So, plus Kugelin is known to take pace off the ball. So, only Deepak Chahar is your out and out first few overs bowler. And obviously, he thinks he's got enough. Otherwise, yeah, he would be scampering about a bit faster if he hadn't.
Yeah, just assessing that. I mean, I was really looking at that when we looked at it, because the opposition have decided to leave out a key spinner in Mujibur Rahman, and they brought in Andrew Tye. Not that he bowled badly in his second spell, but for Chennai, they've seen the pitch and they've decided to leave out Mohit Sharma, and they've got this whole lineup.
Yeah, I think MS Dhoni will be licking his lips with 160, knowing that he's got, as you said, 5 spin options to turn. So you look at the 2 spin options, the Ashwin pair for the Kings, just over 40 between them in terms of run. A few wickets for Ravi Ashwin, who was outstanding at his own venue. He knows the wicket. I'm pretty sure Ravi Ashwin will be sitting in the dressing room now thinking, could have just done with one more spinner. Could have done with Mujib out there on that kind of wicket. So I do think Kings haven't read the pitch like they should have done with Ashwin as the skipper. 160 is chaseable. Certainly you can chase that kind of total, but it will come down to that pairing of Gale and Rahul at the top of the order to get them off to a fly. You won't want to leave it. I think we mentioned that the first 6 haven't been quite going as strong in this IPL as last year's IPL. But I do think to chase that kind of total, you've got to get ahead of the rate. And you've got to get ahead of the rate in that first 6. I expect a few fireworks in that first 6 overs.
And that's exactly what the Chennai Super Kings did. In our pre-match show, we did talk about the fact that Chennai have actually had their problems in the first 6 overs, lost 8 wickets in the power play, haven't scored enough runs, but today they changed that. This is their innings progression, 54 without loss. That was all about Faf du Plessis and Shane Watson. Du Plessis especially coming into the side, straight into open, and it made a big difference. The problem was getting out at the wrong time. The 2 Ashwins were brilliant. Murugan Ashwin, a net bowler in Chennai at one time. Ravi Ashwin knows this. 46 between the 2 of them in 8 overs.
No, 46, absolutely. That's why it's just so strange that they're playing without Mujib in this lineup. And if you look at that, look at all the other bowlers. Even Shami's gone for more than 10, 9.5. Everyone else, Karan Karan actually bowled really well for his first 3 overs. In the end, he just got caught out a bit, and anything with pace on this pitch is likely to go a bit more than anything else. So also expect Tahir could very well be finishing also. I mean, it's not just a question of bowling the middle overs on this kind of a pitch. You could have spinners towards the end as well, because, I mean, the pitch gets really low and slow. To slog this out of the ground is not going to be that easy. It's a larger ground than Bangalore. The conditions, the altitude is much less. It's at sea level. So yeah, they're going to struggle. It's exactly as you said, 70-80 of the first 7-8 of the top, and then somehow they play their way through. The other thing is they don't have a really experienced batting lineup. Once you go past those top 2, Rahul and Gale look really good. And then you have only David Miller out there who you say that, okay, he's a very solid batsman at that position. But Sam Curran is a young kid who's making his way. Ashwin is not really, he's been a good batsman, but more at test level. So other than Miller, Mayank, Sarfraz, Mandeep are all, they're not reliable entities. They're not they're not banks, The only banks they have up there is Chris Gayle at the top end, so they'll really depend a lot on him.
The key will be one of those top three being in when the spinners come on. Yeah, they might start with a spin, but when the likes of Imran Tahir come on in particular, who's been very good of late, you'd have to fancy that Gayle or Rahul will have to be in and striking it so they can really put that kind of bowler under pressure. If they're losing wickets and all of a sudden the leggy comes on, it's very, very difficult to suddenly start striking at 8s and 10s. You've got to be ahead of the rate, be ahead of the game, use the first 6, maximise just 2 field outside the circle and try and get ahead of the zone.
If you have a look at the progression, we showed you that earlier, but just to put it in perspective, 6 overs, 54 runs with the top 2, and then the magician coming at the end. MS Dhoni knows this ground, knew exactly what sort of target he had in mind, and just when you thought, at one point we were looking at our prediction, the range between 140 and 191, 146 to 191, it was even looking as if it wouldn't even get there. We'd fall on the wrong side of it. But MS Dhoni, 44 in the last 3, paired up with Ambati Rayudu, who was playing in a different position, batting at number 5 this time. And look at that partnership, 60 of 38.
60 of 38, Ambati Rayudu has certainly done his cause no harm, saying that, okay, I'm coming in at number 5, difficult position to increase the run rate, and I've done my job for it. The interesting thing is on the other side, I expect that given what the batting they had, and especially what you're talking about, being able to hit spin, being able to improvise, you could see Sarfraz come up earlier as well. If one of the openers, if the openers go for 80, 90, in 7, 8, 9, Sarfraz is the other kind of player who plays spin, plays a lot of inside-out shots, plays the ball around the place. They could use him before they, let the other batsmen come in. Mayank is a much more conventional batsman, much more likely to be tied down. So expect Sarfraz to float if they think that the spinners are sort of having this stranglehold on the match.
Yeah, I mean, the innings of Chennai was no surprise. They just show a huge amount of maturity. They don't, when I look at Chennai, the way that they bat, they come out of the traps, try and get off to a fly, and then all of a sudden they just sit in for a while. I was surprised by Suresh Raina's shot, the ball after Faf du Plessis getting out. He didn't need to play that shot, so that was poor thing, particularly with Ravi Ashwin only having 2 balls remaining. That was a little bit of poor thinking on his behalf. But what Chennai do, they get in the game. They don't look to me like they're going for the 200s, 210s. They just get in the game, knowing that they've got MS Dhoni behind the stumps, moving his troops. They've got plenty of spin options, and they're a good fielding unit. You'd think that MS Dhoni is going to make life very difficult in the field for the Kings 11. We
built this up as this Dhoni versus Ashwin battle, and Ashwin knowing these conditions well. We showed you his economy rate in Chennai, 6.02. Kept it under that today in his 4 overs. I mean, really led from the front.
Yeah, outstanding. You'd come to expect this from Ravi Ashwin in these kind of conditions. Just look at that, 10 dots as well in the 4 overs, just 23 runs, 3 wickets, 3 key wickets. All similar, actually, caught on the boundary, just bamboozling the left-handers and the right-handers with some nice flight. The Karoon ball to the right-handers, getting them hitting to the longer side on the leg side. The ball that got Raina was just a straight on. It was a poor stroke, but the other thing surprising for me with Ravi Ashwin is his team selection not going with Mujib today on that kind of pitch, because he knows the conditions, he knows it's going to spin. He was licking his lips getting the ball in hand, and he must have been thinking throughout that middle stage and towards the end, where's Mujib? Where is he? Could just do with a few overs from you now. Well, he was sat in the dugout.
Yeah. Final one, just assessing what is going on in that Punjab dugout from both of you at this point in time. What do you, not that you can tell much, Chris Gayle, what do you approach this innings like?
No, they'll depend on Gayle. See, Gayle will take his time. Rahul's a natural striker, but they'll be telling Rahul that, look, the most important part of the innings is for you when the ball is still hard and the pitch is still slightly hard. So get as much, you guys are our best hope. Don't leave much for later. You guys need to have a solid start, and that's all they can say. Because if once the ball slows down and the spinners start coming on, spinners could come on very, very fast on this ground at all. You could see just a couple of overs of pace, and then spinners could come on the first 6 definitely. But what they'll be telling themselves is, yes, 160 is big, but you're not out of it. It's not an out of reach. Say 180, 185 would have been out of reach. 160, really good start. We could do this. It's not. They
need the universe boss to be in when the best spinners are on, so he can intimidate them.
They threw one in the deep end with Sam Curran taking the place of Gayle in the previous game. Therefore, they said, go and open the batting and do a little Gayle for us. And he did a mini Gayle. But in this game, with Rahul having scored 30 of 36 in the power play in this edition, what do? Do you change it around? You maybe say, let's just Better Sam Curran up there than Sam Curran at number 8?
No, leave it. You've got to go with Universe Boss and Rahul at the top of the order. That outstanding combination. Sam's pretty good in the middle. He'll be all right. He'll adapt. But I think it's so important that Chris Gale is there when the likes of Harbhajan and Imran Tahir, because you just know that it doesn't really matter what the spinner is. Chris Gale can hit 3 or 4 into the stands, and that's the way that they'll chase down this target, is by having him there, trying to intimidate particularly the 3 main spinners of Chennai Super Kings. The 2 kind of part-timers of Raina and Jadhav, they'll be decent. They'll be there to nick an over or 2. They get a wicket. You wouldn't be surprised if MS Dhoni goes, go on, try and steal me over, get through one quickly. But there's plenty of spin options there, with a couple of seam bowling options there for MS Dhoni as well. And you just feel that they should have enough in terms of skill levels to make this chase very difficult for Kings.
Yeah, pretty much everyone down that. We know Dhoni loves his own bowling. If it were to ever come to that, we get a chance, take the pads off and bowl. Watson used to bowl.
Yeah.
Raidu, of course, has got a problem with his action, so he's ruled out.
Yeah.
So I think it's only Faf du Plessis who can absolutely say, I refuse to get ball in hand in that entire lineup of 11. All right, red or yellow?
I think I'm going to go with yellow on this pitch. I mean the odds favour them. I'd love to see Kings win because it'll throw the tournament wide open, and but I think they've got too much.
I'm going yellow. I'm
Yellow?
going MS Dhoni by 15.
Oh, right. So I'm sticking to the other side. I think 160, since I'm sitting on the NPL Super Couch with the total that I preferred, 160, and I think it's just on that cusp. So it's going to be a huff and a puff, but I somehow have faith not just in those 2, but in that middle order. Mayank Agarwal, my mate, he's the one who can contribute 40 or 50 and try and get them over the line. We shall find out. It's 2 yellows and 1 red. Cricbuzz Combox will be back, and of course NPL presents Cricbuzz Live at the end to wrap it all up halfway through Super Saturday.